Hey, what's up guys? It's Yeti here. Welcome back to another video. So today I want to discuss Mythic Raiding because I have recently kind of dropped out of Mythic Raiding for a lot of reasons that we're going to be talking about today. I do think that Mythic Raiding is still really good and World of Warcraft is the best game that offers this kind of environment to compete and to kind of progress through a raiding tier, to progress through these bosses with, a group of 20 players, which is the set amount of raid roster that can be in a Mythic raid at once in World of Warcraft. But yeah, I want to kind of go over my opinion on Mythic raiding, not just in World of Warcraft, but the whole, format of Mythic raiding and how it compares to other video games in 2024, because gaming has changed a lot since World of Warcraft came out back in 2004. And I think that Mythic raiding also needs to make some adjustments, maybe to fit the current game scene a little bit better. And also, the Race to World First has just completed. Liquid and Echo have both raided for I think it was between 11 and 12 days. And they have taken well over 1,000 pulls to finish the raid. This was one of the hardest raids, actually, by pull count and progression time that we've had since, I think, Sepulchre, which was a raid in Shadowlands. So yeah, I think it was a really hard raid, but the bosses were well designed. Also, just want to quickly mention here, a little bit of out of context. I really like that this raid had so many private auras, which meant that you could not cheese mechanics in the raid with a weak aura. You actually had to just practice and play, and you had to use ground markers and actual callouts to beat the bosses. I think that was really, really nice. Okay, let's first talk about Mythic Raiding. So Mythic Raiding is, as I said earlier, it's a set 20-man raiding layout, and the bosses have a lockout that is connected to an ID. So if you are a part of a Mythic Raiding guild and you are benched or you miss out a certain raid night, you cannot kill any of the bosses with other guilds that week, because if you want to be brought back in later in that week, you need to be completely unsaved to be able to accept their lockout. Mythic guilds will almost always ask you to have 100% attendance for the whole tier before the boss is finished, which means, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 4 nights a week, which are usually between 2 and 4 hours long. Obviously, a lot of guilds that have only 2 nights per week raid 4 hours at a time, and guilds that have 3 or 4 raid nights are usually raiding 2.5 to 3 hours each night. To finish a tier with a single guild is a lot of nights of raiding with them. Let's say if it takes 1,000 pulls, if it would take 1,000 pulls, this would take multiple months for pretty much any medium skill guild. Of course, better guilds do it a lot faster. Some guilds do it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, etc. But I think kind of the average skill level does it in a month and a half if they have good attendance and if they're not skipping raid nights, if it's not summer or Christmas times and things like that. Of course, with time, the pull counts of specific bosses get smaller because of better gear, because of nerfs on those specific bosses, and also because there is a buff in the current raid tier where each week will start buffing the player's damage and healing, so the number of required pulls will kind of go down on bosses because you're going to be having no issues with DPS. People will be dying less. They'll also have more max HP because of the item level increases that you get throughout the weeks. More resets means more reclears, etc. But of course, each time you are reclearing, you are wasting a lot of time on reclearing. You are wasting a lot of pulls of that night on reclearing. And if you get to the point where, let's say, you are pushing the 5th, 6th, 7th boss, etc., you're probably going to stop re-clearing because bosses 1 to 4 are really, really easy. They're almost one-shottable by really good guilds, and bosses 5 through 8 are really difficult. So a lot of guilds might opt into actually saving their lockout from 1 week to another so they can progress through the whole raid tier, and they can actually use all of their, how many raid nights they have to finish that tier. This means that if you're not able to dedicate every single night of your guild's specific schedule, you will be missing out. You'll be hurting the guild, because if you are not there, they need to replace you. They need to get a substitute player. But the next week you come back and that substitute player cannot play anymore, and they will probably go either find a different guild, or, they might, be a really chill person who's okay with being a sub, and they'll actually stay around. But generally speaking, you are expected to have 100% attendance in Mythic Raiding. So now that we have almost fully filled out our schedules, let's say we are raiding 4 nights a week, do not forget that you also must play Mythic Plus and Delves, and you must do open world activities to catch up with reputation, etc., etc. Level up your profession. World of Warcraft is an MMO, and there are obviously more aspects than just raiding. So you need to also divide your free time to that. And if you are somebody who is working a full-time job, let's say you have time to play video games between 6 and midnight, 6 p.m. and midnight every single day. Those are 6 hours a day and 4 nights a week. 3 of those hours are completely just filled with raiding. That means that you have potentially only 3 full afternoons to do World of Warcraft stuff. And obviously you might also have, a significant other or some sort of hobbies, or maybe you train a sport in real life or something like that, which will, of course, fill up even more of your schedule and allow you to have less time for those, important activities such as Mythic Plus, which are mandatory for Mythic Raiders. So I'm trying to get to this point that basically Mythic Raiding is just insanely time consuming. And if you like Mythic Raiding, go for it. But that is one of the reasons why I kind of stepped away for this tier. I need a break. I want to do more Mythic Plus. I want to, focus more on content creation. I want to focus more on my real life friends and family, which I have been honestly neglecting a little bit in the recent years, raiding pretty much every single week. The second point of this discussion is going to be gold costs. Right, so we spoke about Mythic Raiding and how much participation it needs and how much you have to be present. Obviously, officers have to do a lot of work to plan things out, and maybe your guild is even doing splits. A lot of guilds are opting into that nowadays. And I want to discuss the financial aspects of Mythic Raiding. Of course, you have crafting, and then you have consumables. Crafting is something that pretty much everybody does, regardless, or if you're a Mythic Plus player, even Delver, or a PvP player, and raiders also, of course, have to craft items as well. They're pretty costly. I think on my Demon Hunter, I paid roughly 75,000 for my max rank one-hander, so that was pretty expensive. Luckily, I have gold from the past, but I wanted to talk more about consumables, which are a necessity in Mythic Raiding and raiding in general, because you want to push those damage numbers as high as possible. You want to kill the bosses as fast as possible. The lower the kill time generally, the better in almost every single situation. So wanted to discuss the following with you. I made a little graph that I'll show on the screen as well. So I want to talk about flasks, combat potions, weapon oils, runes. Then we also have Vantis runes, repairs, and food costs in raiding. So I looked at the Flask of Alchemical Chaos, which costs 572 gold a pop. Combat potions cost 105 a pop. Weapon oils were roughly 193, while runes were 1,877. Runes are not mandatory. They last an hour, but whenever you die, you lose them. I think runes are kind of like a fancy thing that you will start popping on more high-end later bosses. A lot of people don't really pop them on the early ones. And of course, we have the Vantis runes, which are a one-time usage that adds versatility on a specific boss for that week. And then repairs every time you die, and food. Luckily, you can buy 5 of each food and turn it into a hearty meal, which lasts through death. And will be active for 60 minutes. So if you are taking at least the bare minimum of these consumables, by the way, all of the prices I mentioned were for tier 2 consumables. They were not the highest. And I was getting roughly 7,000 gold each raid, each night. And if you are using runes, every pull, you are going to pay way more. I mean, they are almost 2,000 gold per pop. And if you are going to pop 30 of them, that's a lot of gold. But let's just say you're not popping those every single pull, and you're also not using weapon oils on both weapons. Let's say you're a caster or whatever. Yeah, generally speaking, 7,000. If you're, of course, using flask and popping combat potions on each bloodlust, you will be using roughly 7k per raid night. And if you are raiding 3 times a week, I think that's the most average kind of amount of raids, you will be using 21,000 gold every week. And then, that adds up pretty fast each month to, 80K-ish. And I think that's a lot of gold. I do not know how people farm their gold in World of Warcraft. If you're a Mythic Raider, you probably are forced to do some sort of boosting. If I'm completely honest, I do not think professions are good enough to pay for this. If you are somebody who knows that you are a Mythic Raider and you are genuinely making enough money by doing crafts, congratulations to you. You're probably doing that very early in the season and you have leveled up your professions fast enough. But for me, I've just joined these boost runs where you can get maybe 200 to 300K each week by being unsaved and boosting in Heroic. Of course, in Mythic Plus, a lot of these consumables apply as well. But I think that they are not nearly as necessary as they are for your raids, because your raid leader will look at you and he will notice you are not popping these consumables and he will be pretty damn mad. And I would as well, because I think consumables are actually needed for the damage checks, which you are met with in Mythic Raiding. So if Yeti is not going to be Mythic Raiding, what are you even going to be doing? Well, currently there are more aspects to World of Warcraft than just Mythic Raiding. I think in the past, Mythic Raiding has been kind of the only thing that I found joy with. But as time went on, I found more and more other things that I'm having fun with. And Mythic Plus and Delves are probably the main ones that came out now that I'm really enjoying. Of course, Delves to me are just another replacement of Mythic Plus. I do it as a 5-man content. I run it with groups. And Mythic Plus has been, generally speaking, in my opinion, a lot harder this season. And, this is not an objective opinion. Some people dislike this season. Some people like this season. There's a lot of changes. But I like that the keys are a lot tighter and that the community feels tighter. And it's also easier to get involved in the high end, at least as of right now. That might change in the future. We might have people pushing way higher than 12s and 13s in the future again. But as of right now, I'm enjoying Mythic Plus and I'm liking the idea of actually getting involved. I also think that having Mythic Plus as a way to get Mythic track gear from your weekly vault is really nice. This has been the case for a really long time now. And I think that Mythic Plus players that are doing those very, very high keys should have access to Mythic track gear, which basically makes them the highest possible item level, but they need to invest a few more weeks of playing because they're only able to get that from the vault. But I think it's still very, very incredible that that chance is actually out there for the people to get those. In the War Within, players in general have a lot more freedom with what they do. I also think that PvP has made a lot of objectively good improvements with solo queue for rated battlegrounds. I think rated battlegrounds have been such a awesome part of World of Warcraft in the past, and then in the recent years I think people are just doing a lot more arena. And now that solo queue PvP RPGs are back, I really think that PvP is a very viable option for those competitive players trying to do something else than just constantly PvE and raid. Another part that I really like about both PvP and Mythic Plus is the replayability. Right? Of course, raid has a lot of time you'll be spending in there, a lot of time you'll be spending progressing. But if you are in a guild that starts locking out their raid lockout, you will get to the point where, let's say, you're only killing Silken Court once before you're going on to Queen Ansarek. So you're not even going to get the chance to have a high parse or to do something crazy on that boss. You're only going to ever kill it once, and then you might never see it again, because there are a lot of guilds that are, in that level, literally hundreds of guilds. I'm going to guess that most people in between rank 500 and rank 1000 don't get to re-kill the last couple of bosses that many times. So you're kind of limited to that, performance that one time or maybe once per couple of weeks when you are re-killing a specific boss to parse well and to do your best and maybe to do something crazy. While Mythic Plus in PvP, you are able to constantly push yourself higher, constantly outperform yourself. Let's say if you are failing a Mythic Plus, Necrotic Wake 10, or you maybe only plussed it and you want to have plus plus because that gives so much score, but you know you can't do an 11. You can try that again. You can either get your key to that level, or you can sign up to a pug that has that key, and you can do that, and you're not like locked out of performing anything else in the future. That's why I also think that Mythic Raiding should change the way the lockout works. Right now, like bosses 1 through 4 in Nerubar Palace are so freaking easy, and I really think that Blizzard kind of opening up the lockouts of Mythic Raiding would allow more players to pug those bosses while progressing with the later bosses with their guilds in the raiding hours of the guild. I know that World First Race would go crazy with this. They would do some absolute degenerate shit with being open to sharing the lockouts, but that's not really a problem for 99.9% of the player base in World of Warcraft. Like, I don't know, WoW has like, I don't know how many million subscribers, and World First Race has like, 60 players involved. So yeah, I think it would be something really nice to maybe look at in the future, maybe change. But I do think that World of Warcraft has, generally speaking, done so much good stuff. So many good changes were implemented that made World of Warcraft feel like a modern game in the last couple of years, and I really like that. So to conclude this video and to just kind of go over what we talked about, Mythic Raiding is still really cool. I think that if you have a position in your life, or you are at a specific time where you have the ability to raid, or maybe your work schedule is fully allowing you to raid and do whatever you want with your time, maybe you work from home or something like that, Mythic Raiding is really, really good for you. For those of you who have, kids or a more flexible lifestyle and you're not able to commit to literally being there every single time, then Mythic Raiding becomes less and less of a viable option to you, while Mythic Plus is literally still great. You can still be a top rated Mythic Plus player without being there every single Friday at 9 p.m. because that is what Mythic Plus allows, while Raiding doesn't. Raiding is still awesome, and World of Warcraft is the only game that allows this kind of gameplay. It allows the 20-man raids to work the way they do. No other game allows that, and also I do think that Raiding in World of Warcraft is superior to other games, so it is what it is. Let me know your opinion on Mythic Raiding in Nerubar Palace and just in general in World of Warcraft in the last couple of years. And if you are taking part of World of Warcraft, are you able to have a 100% participation rate? And how do you farm your gold? Those are two things I would really like to hear about. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. If you want more, subscribe, and I'll see you around. Peace out.